And welcome to another session of the Fast Show. We're here to give you information that you could have missed in yesterday's news. Of course, we have Select News at 9, and we also have the Uganda News Selector in Jaulo, which comes your way at 7:45 and 8:45. And if you've missed that information during the news yesterday, we're here to give you that information and dive deep into what exactly that information means for you and your kids. And for the topic of discussion, we'll be having, of course, the reopening of semi-candidate and candidate classes. However, kindergarten schools will remain closed. What is your view on that? Will be our topic of today, and we will be expecting your call. Mujatukubira mutugambe endowooza yammwe on the fact that kindergartens will be closed a lot of time with your children. And is that bad or good for you? Good morning. My name is Latifa Hamid, and we'll be riding from now until 9 when Face to Face will come in and take over. However, I'm not alone on the show.
Well, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us aboard for the Fast Show today. My name is Carol Tumwini, and it's always a great pleasure having you as our audience this day of February. It's just a new year. The year has just started, and we're looking forward to very many other things now. We should remember that, of course, last year in March, just around this time, the pandemic had hit, and so we went on lockdown, and most of the industries here in Uganda or in Kampala went on lockdown. However, we were later released to go back to work and stuff, but some of these industries are still under lockdown. We're going to look at how it's affecting the economy, of course, along with other stories that are making headlines and rounds of news here in Uganda as well as out of the country. We'll be taking a look at our press review, but before that, I'd like to remind you to follow us on our social media platforms. That's very important. That's at STV Uganda on Facebook, STV UG Official on Twitter, as well as STV Uganda on Instagram. We are there, and we'll keep discussing with you, seeing what you have to tell us, and chit-chatting, commenting, and seeing how to make this show better. And of course, the whole station, because we are Select for Fun, and we do have a number of programs that you should not miss out, right from morning till evening, when we have the two packages of news. That's Select News and Select Angel, like Latifa Hamid said. Latifa, how is your morning?
My morning is amazing. It's one of those mornings that are not too hot and not too cold either.
Yes.
And the thing is, every time, of course, for me right now, what is on my mind is every time I sit at home, I'm thinking, I'm going to spend a lot of time with my kid. What am I going to do with them? And for me, that's very important, because literally it's going to be our topic of discussion. But, you know, before it becomes our topic of discussion, I'm really wondering, how much time am I spending with my kid? It's not like it's a bad thing, but do I have that time? For parents who go to work, like us, very early in the morning, and go back home very late in the evening, and have to wake up another 6 a.m. What time do we have with our kids? Okay, so if they're closing kindergarten, let them open daycare for us. At least there they can play with other kids and they can be taken care of. However, that's a topic, like I said, that we'll be diving into a little bit later. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you so much. I'm just taking a look at how events are unfolding before us. Who knew that at such a time kindergarten would be closed, and then kids would have to start school in P1.
5 years old, 7 years old.
They're going to miss a stage in their life, because we really need that kindergarten stage where you just go to class and doodle and draw stuff
and
just
sing songs. Do you remember the nursery rhymes? Feturi Embatento. That was one of my best rhymes that I used to sing in. And then Father Abraham. Really, we're going to miss all that fun in kindergarten. However, like I said, we'll dive into that later. Now, let's go into the Daily Monitor and see what happens. Remember, in the Daily Monitor, every Tuesday, they have a little bit for the kiddies, the rainbow pull-out for the kids, and that you'll be having also in the Daily Monitor. And they also have a pull-out for the budget and money and businesses, what you need to know about businesses in Uganda. However, when we look at the first page of the Daily Monitor, of course, you're going to get yourself a copy. The first one is about how government plans to reopen all schools. Now, this is the topic that is making headlines. Now, when we look at a little bit of the, you know, the timeline and what is going on, From June 21st to August 13th, the P1, P2, and P3 pupils will report to school. They'll have 8 weeks of study. Right now, of course, government has allowed that on the 1st of March 2021, we'll have candidate classes who will be the ones, candidates and semi-candidate classes, who will be the one to rejoin schools. However, we also see that the tentative plan is that on June 21st and August 13th, P1, P2 and P3 will start June 18th to August 13th. That is 10 weeks of school. Senior 2 will go back to school. And April 19th, of course, when they report to July 22nd, senior 1s will go to school. June 18th to March. The details are right here. I don't think I should go all through the details. However, the details are here for you and you can go through them, and that is on the first page. Still on the first page, we have 40 prison seniors or chiefs moved and reshuffled. We'll be going through that story as well. And finally, the other story that made headlines, UPDF soldiers injured in Somalia chopper crash, and we did that story in the news yesterday as well. What do you have in the New Vision?
All right, from the New Vision, there's a number of stories, and of course the first one being the same story about education. Now, like someone said, news is fast. You've got to catch it quickly and tell it properly. My headline story today is government reviews COVID-19 SOPs for schools. Now this is a bit of different angle from Latifa's view, where we're going to be looking at these COVID-19 SOPs that have been reviewed in order to handle the schools and their reopening. Now on agenda as well is catering for big numbers of students, because like we know, now it's time for students to go back. We do have a number of students in different schools, and so we're going to see how to cater for them, including the teachers and other non-teaching staff that helps around the schools. Also on my first page today is Chagulanyi picks Mbabazi's lawyer in Paul's petition. That's also on the first page of the New Vision. We do have the Chabazinga who launched the Elderly Fitness Project. Also the elderly women taking part in fitness drills at Buwagi Primary School in Jinja Northern Division. It is on the first page, and it's the picture of the day. You can see the ladies taking part in exercising and doing what we call drills, and making sure they are fit physically. Now also on the first page is in our pull-out of Her Vision, we have a story where somebody says her husband put her first even when she was barren. I think this is something to be happy about, especially in this world where once you're barren, not only your husband, but even your in-laws and stuff will come against you as if it's your fault. But that's the story in the New Vision. Also on my first page is Oil and Gas Initiative that exposes gaps in mining revenue collection. That's a very big story that we shall look at as we go ahead. COVID-19 to pay a Nambole shillings 1.4 billion of a business loss is also one of the stories that we do have on our first page in the New Vision. Then community news, where Kumi's Reverend Okunya has spoken out. We are going to take a look at what he is saying. However, we also do have a report about Somalia UPDF soldiers that were injured in the chopper crash. However, the report says that all 4 of them that were on board did not have any major complications, and they survived and nobody died. That's it from my first page.
Well, the stories that got my attention on the New Vision is 2 stories. Now, one is the elderly exercising. Well, that's interesting. I should have my grandma enroll on such a program, or the Chabazinga should have the program rolled out to the different districts in the country so that I can have my grandma exercise as well. However, that's very important for them, especially in the COVID-19 situation where they need to exercise. And then, of course, the UPDF chopper. Of course, this is the UPDF has sent choppers to Somalia. It's like the 12th time they have sent a chopper, and most of them have had mechanical conditions. So they need to look through that if we're going to have safe soldiers travel all the way to Somalia. So that's quite important.
I don't understand why it is the military planes, the Mi-24s, that get accidents all through it, because the Bombardier has not yet fallen.
Not yet.
Even when we had the old airlines, the old Uganda airlines, I didn't hear of a plane crash. But once it gets to UPDF and once they're crossing to Mogadishu around there, something happens and the choppers crash. Well, I don't know why. I don't know why.
Well, that's a question that they'll definitely have to answer for us. Going forward with the second page of the Daily Monitor, we definitely remember that the case that Robert Chagulanyi has taken to court, like you told us, that he hired the lawyer of Mama Mbabazi. Weirdly, I'm wondering how that will go because Mama Mbabazi lost in the petition. So how is it going to help? However, we know that they have a total of over 40 lawyers and 24 lawyers respectively between the two camps. So I can't wait to see that war happening in court. Now we know that Robert Chagulanyi, the NUP leader, according to the Daily Monitor, has filed additional evidence in the Supreme Court to allow his election petition to bolster ahead of the hearing, pre-hearing that will happen, of course, on the 11th of this month. And we also see that the other one is the Israel Prime Minister denied corruption charges against him as his graft trial resumed. We also have a story that says US President Joe Biden says he will not lift the economic sanctions against Iran. International news. And then we have a section of traditional chiefs in Alur Kingdom have asked government to allow cultural institutions to have representatives in parliament. That should be our topic of discussion today. What do you think about cultural representatives in parliament? And I think that's very important because, see, cultural institutions, no, they haven't been represented before. And that is why the Alur Kingdom is actually coming up to call for that to happen. The army has been represented in parliament. And we know that the opposition have theirs and they have the opposition chief whip. However, cultural leaders.
But the leaders that we have now, they come from culture. They come from culture backgrounds.
No, that's not enough. No. That's not enough.
Because if you take a look at Uganda, how many cultural backgrounds do you have? How many kingdoms per se?
We have the Buganda kingdom.
Yes.
We have the Ankole kingdom. In Alur, they have a kingdom. The West Nile are trying to start up their kingdom. The Busoga region have one. The Bamasaba have a kingdom. So yes, they do have a number of kingdoms, but then the problem would be, do we send one from every district, every region, or do we just get one person to represent? And that is going to be a problem because they don't seem to agree on anything.
Someone from Ruchiga Kingdom to take over and
tell me about it. Yeah, as of course I come to a conclusion of the second page. Now what I like about Daily Monitor is all the time in all their papers they have Today in History, and that's something Adams Mayambala usually does for us. So we have Today in History, and they usually have a picture in black and white that represents what is happening today in history. So they have a view of Fort Lugat at Old Kampala Hill in 1994, a very interesting look. And they also have Today in History where Binaisa drops Minister Muwanga, that's February 9th, 1980, and the first Catholic non-doctor. Interesting. I would like to know what happened in Uganda when I was not yet born. What's happening there?
All right. As you know, the International Women's Day falls on March 8th, and in the New Vision on the second page is a lady whose hustle has been spotlighted, and they're telling us about her hustle. And in regard to Women's Day, the New Vision is going to have a segment that brings up women every single day until the 18th of March. And today's is Susan Luja, a resident of Nakawa, who vends snacks on 3rd Street in industrial area, talking about her hustle. Now, also on the second page, usually these days, is a segment where they show you your member of parliament elect in, of course, this parliament that has just been voted into power. Today's highlights are on Jim Muhwezi, who is the Rujumbura County member of parliament. Now, he is a lawyer and a retired soldier who was born in Rukunjiri district in Rujumbura County on August 23rd, 1950. Now, his details are there. You should take a look at the at the New Vision. Also, Francis Zake, who is the Mityana Municipality MP, who was born in January 12th, 1991. 1991. Wow, that's young. As well as Ibrahim Semujunganda, who is the Kura Municipality Member of Parliament. He has also been put in the New Vision today, and there are a little bit of details about these guys. Every day, the New Vision releases about 3 of their personal data and stuff that you need to know about them. Please do go and check it out. Now, Today in History as well is on page 2 of the New Vision. I don't know why it happens to be on the second page, just like the Daily Monitor. But on February 9th, 1980, they are talking about Binaisa's transfer to Mwanga. Now, they say President Godfrey Lukongo Binaisa announced the transfer of powerful Minister of Internal Affairs, Paul Mwanga, to the position of Ambassador in the United Nations. That's on page 2, as well as a COVID-19 update that I will quickly zoom through. Now, the total cases are 39,848, total deaths are 327, total recoveries are 14,349. We commend the doctors for this job well done, because the numbers are very many, as well as new deaths which are nil, and new recoveries are still nil. As of today, the COVID-19 update stands at that position.
Well, I will scroll through faster than we have been doing because, of course, you have to buy the New Vision and the Daily Monitor for yourself. You don't expect us to give you all the details in the newspapers. Now, scrolling faster through these newspapers, we have Museveni can't win without the army, and that is Robert Chagulanyi saying this. We know that the fight has been continuous and it will not stop until maybe the court ruling comes out. So Robert Chagulanyi is here, and then right under it, we have 12 Chagulanyi supporters released on bail, and we know that Eddie Mutwe and Nubia Lee have been denied this particular bail, and they say that they're scared that they will start violence if they're released on bail. And then on the next page, we have schools reopening master plan leaks. Of course, I read it to you. And then Kadaga's Institute to train MPs on debate. I'm excited about that one. And then finally, schools increase fees ahead of reopening for semi-candidates. For me, that's a disappointment because we know we're all in the COVID-19 situation.
That's true.
Yeah. So what's it? What's in there?
Page 3 of the New Vision, where Education Ministry reviews COVID-19 SOPs for schools, just like I told you, as well as there's going to be another inspection of these schools just before they reopen and kids get to go back to school. Now, National Examinations Board cheats face 10 years jail term. It's a new resolution where they decided that cheats are going to face 10 years jail term. That's on page 3. If I move to page 4, 4 UPDF officers injured in Somalia chopper crash. Of course, just like I had read to you, as well as Chagulanyi picks Mbavazi's lawyer in poll petition. This story is on page 4 of the New Vision of today's of course, news. And Chagulanyi's election petition grounds are also listed. 25 of them are listed in the New Vision today. Please take a look at some of them. I will read to you only number 13 and number 14. Number 13 says EC failure to control distribution of polling materials. Number 14 says failure by the Attorney General to cause amendment to the relevant laws as directed by the Supreme Court. I do not know if those are valid reasons why he should be petitioning. But page 5, favorable rains expected in March to May. We had talked about the story, and I told you to prepare for rains come March, April, May, June. There are going to be rains, according to some scientists that work in the weather industry. And then Finance Ministry changes budget plan, and I can see Keith Muhakanizi's picture just around this story here. I think it revolves around him.
Carol, are you a farmer?
The permanent Secretary of the Finance Ministry.
Are you a farmer?
Am I a farmer? Yes, I try.
Because when people hear the news of rain coming, there's of course excitement, because you know Uganda has depended on farming as its backbone for the longest time. Coffee being one of our biggest exports, and fish coming into that line of coffee, and so on and so forth. So yes, that's why I asked if you were a farmer, and I know that a lot of us young people despise farming, so
we despise farming, yet it's the future of
I know,
wealth.
right? Isn't it the gold? Isn't it the gold? So we have a list of your LT3s. You know, we've just concluded the LT3 elections.
Oh, wow.
So they give you the list. Daily Monitor gives you the list of your LT3s. And then we have, of course, the story I told you earlier. They have moved over 40 senior chiefs of prisons in a reshuffle that just happened recently. And then the story that got my attention is right here, of course, after the health section, where Uganda's National Drug Authority guarantees safe veterinary medicine. Well, yesterday in our news, of course, we had 137 pharmacies that were closed because of counterfeit drugs. However, when we look at, of course, something to be happy about, Masaka Hospital is to get 5 ICU facilities. And then the picture that got my attention is right here, where of course it's the cartoon of the day, where they're looking at the fact that MTV have officially postponed MTV African Music Awards in Kampala, and that is the Mama Awards. Unfortunately, they have been postponed due to COVID-19, and a lot of people are saying, did they know there was COVID-19 when they started the plan to bring it?
Is not the reason why mamas were pushed.
Oh, well, that's exactly why they're saying here that it is the reason. And then they're showing someone, it's a very funny picture. So go to the Daily Monitor, look at it, give yourself a hearty laugh, and then you can, read through the details of exactly why the Mama Awards were cancelled. And we also know that the DGF story is still making headlines. And a lot of people are wondering how come the GDF was shut down at a time when the country needs it the most.
Wow, sixth page of sixth page of the New Vision. Something has got my attention. Sorry. Now, Byabakama Simon, the Justice, the head of the Electoral Commission, is not in office. Did you know that? And Hajat Aisha Lubega is now acting EC boss. Now, Hajat Aisha Lubega is one of the commissioners of the Electoral Commission, and she's second to the Justice Simon Byabakama. Now, Simon Byabakama is out of office, and they say he has taken leave of absence from the post. Now, somebody quoting says she is now seated in the office, and there is no instrument, but she is acting as such. That was from Stephen Tashobia, who is one of the commissioners as well. We do not know exactly what is taking place at the Electoral Commission, but we promise you that we are going to follow up on this story and bring you details on what is happening there. Low turnout in residue elections, the pictures of people voting, especially in areas of Chankwanzi, Madiokolo, Lira, and candidates who tied repeated their voting process, and they tied again. That's very, very interesting. Please do take a look at it in today's New Vision. Then accumulated leave days, efforts to get comment from Byabakama on his leave at such a crucial time proved futile. That's the story I've been telling you. So nobody knows the reason yet. Moving on to page 7 of the New Vision today. Government to pay 1.4 billion shillings to Nambole over loss of business. Of course, like I told you, this is one of the sectors that are being affected because they are still under the lockdown, and now government has got to pay 1.4 billion shillings to the Nambole over the loss of business now. It should be remembered that, of course, we still have a date as a country that we haven't covered yet, but it keeps accumulating, and money keeps going to areas that are less of priority than the others. But we do hope that God's helping hand comes through and helps the country.
Amen. Amen to that.
Lastly, on page 7, UDC accuses Energy Ministry of awarding contract to private firm. I don't know what they expected that to be, but take a look at that story in today's national. Why am I calling it the national newspaper? Okay, today's New Vision.
Aha, she's decided to call it the national newspaper. Now, as we finally come to the end of the Daily Monitor, yes, we have the Prosper pullout, which is of course business. And the question in it is, how safe is your information while using VPN? You know that we're widely using VPN. VPN at this time, because of the shutdown of social media, they decided to open internet but keep social media closed, just like they decided to keep Nubian Lee and Eddie Mitwe in prison, fearing that they would incite violence.
Very nice combination.
But it's the same reason why they shut down both of them. So yes, now that's a question that you ought to ask yourself, because VPNs are huge windows to hackers. So while you're logging in, how safe is your information? And of course, like I told you earlier, you have the pull-out for the totals, where they can't do whatever they want, read, write, paint, all that comes in the rainbow. And then finally, in the international news, in African news, we have Somalia opposition leaders no longer recognize the president. Now, this one, Somalia, has been going on for so long, with the opposition leaders saying the president was there illegally, and the president says, I am staying in power regardless of what happens. Now, we know that, I've told you, of course, the highlights of Joe Biden saying that it will sanction Iran, and the sanctions won't be lifted until they deal with the nuclear issues. Now, all that will be coming into your papers. And then finally, Bosa expresses fear of venom in your sports side of the Daily Monitor. There you go. Go buy yourself one and read the news. You have got to keep yourself informed.
Okay, I'll wrap up the New Vision as well.
Yes.
Pneumonia has reduced among children. Now, this is a very big story, because as we know, pneumonia is one of the diseases that disturb children here in Uganda, or at a high level, aside from malaria. But a report says pneumonia has reduced among children. Now, also, yesterday I did a story about Ebola breaking out, the 12th outbreak of Ebola in DR Congo. Now, today in the New Vision, there is a story, Ebola, Uganda on alert after outbreak in DR Congo. Of course, now our Ministry of Health is much more alert to make sure that this does not come to Uganda, because we are still combating the COVID-19 and trying to get vaccines and stuff like that, and Ebola would be a very, very huge problem. But there's been a 12th outbreak in DR Congo. Now, you should remember that of these 12 outbreaks, the Ebola virus has been different in all those 10. The 11th one claimed over 54,000 lives of people, and now there is a new outbreak. Please do take a look at that in the daily, in the New Vision. There's also something for your children. There's something for your children in terms of school, where they can get chemistry solutions, entrepreneurship solutions, biology, as well as other. Did you love biology as a student?
I loved English, literature.
English,
Not math, not biology. I'm not a scientist, meanwhile, although I wish I was. Yes.
You wish you did like PCB math.
You know, I'd be a doctor right now for the swag. You know how good they were, how good they felt. Only secondary, no quarter science subjects. No, you feel like you're on top of that chain. Yeah.
I'm currently
Definitely. Now let's wind up this newspaper review, and then we'll be doing Today in History with Adams Mayambala, who will be giving us the details of what happened today, particularly in history. Carol.
Yes. I'd like to tell you guys about a story that I already mentioned earlier. Just one. Oil and gas infrastructure. There's a story about oil and gas, and there's actually a whole pull-out about oil and gas. This is the next big industry, if you know very well. And students, there are very many students enrolling to study oil and gas, and I wish I was one of them. I wish I had enough courage to go and study oil and gas, because it's going to be a very, very big deal since Uganda has its oil that we haven't yet seen.
It's going to come. You have hope for the future. There's light at the end of the tunnel. Yes. Anyways, all right. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being with us. Thank you for spending your time with us on the newspaper review, and thank you for being part of the first show.